All right, welcome to day 3, which is all about psychic boundaries and psychic protection. Now, first of all, why are boundaries and protection important when it comes to awakening your gifts? Well, in your mind's eye, go ahead and picture a door to your home. Now, when the door is open, sure, you can see what's outside, right? That's great. You have a nice view. The problem with that, though, as you could imagine, is that it's literally open to all of the elements, right? Anything could come in. Dust, a fly, or flies, right? Even strangers can come in. Now, what if you had a screen door instead, right? Yeah, sure, there's somewhat of a barrier, but you can still see outside a bit. Does that make sense? So this is what psychic boundaries and psychic protection is all about. Now, in previous videos, we spoke about honoring the body before doing any energy work, and then tapping into that intuitive mind instead of your thinking and rational mind. Well, when it comes to tapping into your intuitive mind or starting to open up your psychic abilities, once you get to that stage, you've now literally opened up a whole new doorway, right? And so what's on the other side of this doorway? Well, for many of you who are already tapping in, you already know, right? It could be downright scary if you don't know what's going on, right? All these energies, it literally is like a infinite world of energies out there. Now, for those of you that aren't quite sure, maybe you're not quite at that stage of opening up that doorway yet. Yeah, let me give you an analogy. As you can tell, I like giving a lot of analogies to help you understand. So here's an analogy for you. Now imagine learning how to swim, right? When you first learn how to swim, you learn in a swimming pool probably, right? Or ideally, you want to learn in a swimming pool. And the reason for that is because you could go into the shallow end of the swimming pool, and then there you are trying to learn how to swim. And if you do sink, you could safely touch the ground, right? Or you can grab onto the side of the swimming pool. Well, just like I mentioned in that first video, you do that because you want the body to feel safe, right? You want it to feel safe and secure. Now, if the body felt like it was going to drown or sink in any kind of way, what happens to the body? Well, the body's going to react, right? It's going to float, or it's not going to float. It's going to panic. And whenever you end up panicking, you're flailing around rather than staying calm, floating, right? If your arms and legs are flailing around, your body bends, what ends up happening is you just sink, right? So you learn how to swim on the shallow end first, so it's not so overwhelming. You're literally learning via baby steps, right? And then you eventually get into the deeper end of the pool. Next thing you know, you're doing laps around the pool. And, next thing you know, you might even want to start swimming in a lake or in the ocean. You get into bigger and bigger bodies of water. Now, imagine for a moment learning to swim where you're literally just dropped right into the middle of a deep, dark ocean. Right? You have nothing to hold on to. No bottom of the swimming pool to touch. And who knows what's lurking beneath the surface? All right? What's going to happen? Your body will panic, right? Because it's all unfamiliar. It's unknown. You can't touch the bottom. Your body literally just doesn't feel safe, right? And yeah, you're flailing around, but the more you flail around, right, you sink, and then eventually you drown. All right, so not a recommended way to swim. Okay, not that drowning is funny, but it's just not a recommended way to swim. Now, what does all this have to do with your psychic boundaries? Well, consider this, right? Again, when you start tapping into your psychic and intuitive mind, right, you start opening up a doorway. Right? You open up this big spiritual doorway that's like a doorway to the ocean, and in the ocean there's all this stuff lurking about, right? It's like that big wide ocean. And so when you open that doorway, that's your intuitive mind and your psychic abilities, guess what? That opens you up to who knows what. All right? So what this means is that by creating proper boundaries, and then two, once those boundaries are created, right? Two, learning how to protect those psychic boundaries, then what happens is that you are now in more control of your gifts. All right, so consider that for many of you, when first learning how to open up your third eye, it's just too much, it's just way too much all at once. All right, that's why if you go on YouTube, there's all these YouTube videos about the dangers of opening up your third eye. Well, you know, maybe it's less about that being dangerous, and maybe it's more that you just haven't created proper psychic boundaries and psychic protection, right? Other instances, maybe you're like a highly sensitive empath, right? And I've heard so many times empaths say, oh, I can't even go out into crowds because you're just absorbing everyone else's energies, right? And what's that all about? Well, it's because your channels are really open, right? There is no psychic boundaries, there's no psychic protection going on. Things are just coming on in. Now, all of these energies from the great beyond, literally, they're just getting in your space, right? It's like learning to swim in that deep, vast ocean, and your body can literally freak out. And, you know, what's the other analogy? It's like drinking through a fire hydrant for many of you, right? And it's no wonder why many of you are overwhelmed, scared. The body is just freaking out, okay? And I've seen it in the comments in the group here that for many of you, it's like, oh, I wish I could just control my abilities, right? And, you know, this might be you as well, that you've probably tried awakening your gifts in the past. And I've seen so many highly gifted people literally just want to give up, either because it's too much energy, or that energy that you did come across is scary, right? It's frightening. And I've run into too many super talented, intuitive people who just gave up, right? And then just wanted to shut their gifts off, right? But, you know, as you probably have figured out, what's the saying? What you resist persists, right? And so for many people, it's like this pressure cooker of stuff. They're trying to shut things down. But really, rather than just closing it all off, you know, here's what you really need, right? All you need are properly defined psychic boundaries and psychic protection, right? And without the boundaries, you know, you don't know what to protect. And without the protection, even if you do have your boundaries defined, it still can just let any energy in from that big, vast ocean of spiritual information that's out there, right? And when I say anything could come in, you know, beings, entities, spirit guides, I know many of you have those challenges. Other people's energies or emotions, especially if you're like an empath, ringing in the ears, you know, when spirit doesn't recognize proper spiritual boundaries and doorways, right? So all of those things, they're not like a cause for what's going on with your boundaries. It's more like a symptom, right? Those are all more like symptoms. Does that make sense? If they're just symptoms, signs that, hey, you probably just need to define your boundaries and protection better. Now, when you do open up, you know, that spiritual intuitive doorway, what if instead you could control that doorway? All right, so going back to what I opened up with earlier, right? The doorway of your home could be wide open, right? But what if instead you controlled that doorway, and what if you learned how to bring in the energies you want to take a look at, right? So here you are doing a reading, right? It's like, hey, I want to look at a past life, or hey, I want to look at the energy of a chakra. So you bring into your reading field, you take a look, and then when you're done, you can let it all go, right? You clear your field so that whatever readings you might have done in the past, it's not like it's still stuck there and lingering, right? You are controlling what goes in and what comes out, right? So how cool would that be, right? It's more coming from a place of choice rather than being overwhelmed with random energies. All right, so how would your psychic experience be then if you can control that doorway? All right, so going back to that analogy of the door wide open versus using the screen door to keep stuff shut out. This is what psychic boundaries and psychic protection is all about. And without it, It's like looking at too many things at once, unable to focus on anything. Right? It's no wonder. It's no wonder why many of you feel blocked, feel like you've lost access to your gifts, right? And then what ends up happening is you go into judgment, right? You go into judgment, like my abilities are not working, things aren't working like they're supposed to be, like it was when I was younger. And when you get into judgment, guess what? Judgment is a really low vibration. All right? And when you're in that low vibration, or any low vibration, right? Vibrations like fear, judgment, worry, all right? All those are really low vibrations. And when you're in any kind of low vibration, literally your abilities just shut off and your abilities don't work, right? All because of a lack of a definition of your spiritual boundaries in your doorway, right? And psychic protection. Now, psychic protection itself is a whole other topic, right? And there are many tools that I teach in my more advanced programs. So it is more than I can teach in a 5-day training. And yet, stay tuned for day 5, because I will give you a taste of what it is to define your boundaries at least. And just like I mentioned in previous videos, once this particular training is done, right, after the 5-day training is up, and I'm going to, talk about a couple more days of just stuff that I offer after this training is done. Again, when the doors close, they close for good. All right. So I will be making a special offer to those who want to learn more and take their psychic gifts, psychic boundaries, psychic protection, taking all of that to the next level. And let me tell you, while that vast ocean of spiritual information and infinite possibilities, while it might be scary, right, there's also a lot of beauty to be discovered, lots of information to learn, and spirit guides, ascended masters, archangels, like that kind of information you can tap into. And there's like realms, realities, other spiritual dimensions which you could tap into, safely, right, once you learn how to control that spiritual doorway. Now, at this point, go ahead and comment below, right? How are your boundaries currently at the moment? And I'd also love to hear your ahas or your questions regarding your psychic boundaries and psychic protection. And go ahead and at least comment boundaries, right? Comment the word boundaries below to let me know you watched this video. Now, tomorrow, finally, right, day 4, this is the last day of like these explanation videos. I'm going to talk about activating your third eye, right? Activating that psychic third eye. And then remember, on day 5, it's all about practice day, right? And if you haven't noticed, I am sneaking in a bonus day 6, okay? So day 6 is where, what you learn in day 5, you get to practice a little bit more, and you get to watch me in action. I'm going to demonstrate a reading, or a couple readings. I'll do a reading on up to 5 people on Saturday. So definitely mark your calendars for Saturday. You don't want to miss it. Saturday at noon Pacific, okay? So that's 12, 1, 2, 3, and 12 noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. All right, that's all I have for today. See you in the next video.